What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Lucky's Ranchu goldfish food, so make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out those links in the description and make sure you check out our new Facebook page. The link is down below. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at the Lucky's Ranchu growth pellets and the colour formula as well. We're going to be having a look at the nutritional analysis, also the ingredients, and overall what I think of it. And then hopefully when we eventually get our new goldfish for the Goldfish Mega Tank, we'll be doing a little bit of a feed trial with it as well. So let's get into the video. So first up, Adam Luck from Lucky's Ranchu did send me this food, and this is a review, my own opinion, unbiased opinion. He did send me this food for free, so I haven't paid for it. Just as a disclaimer, just want to let you guys know and make sure you know that this is a completely honest review. So he did gift me this food to try out and do a video on, but I'm going to be taking a look at it. I've had a look at the nutritional analysis and the ingredients of the food, and I'm going to be telling you what I think personally, and then as I mentioned, we will do a feed trial as well. So first up, we have the colour formula. As you can see, this is a red coloured pellet, which is full of astaxanthin, which is the colour enhancer, and then we've also got the growth pellet as well. Now the growth pellet has 55% protein in it, so it is a really high protein diet, really good at bringing on young fish and fry. And then also we have the colour pellet, which is 45% protein, which is still probably on average, if not slightly above average protein content for the generic fancy goldfish diets that you can purchase off the internet. Now, I don't know the full 100% nutritional analysis, unfortunately, as I did not have that information available to me. However, I do know that both diets contain 6% ash, which is a nice low level, 10% fat, and 2% fibre. Plus, obviously, one is 45% protein and the other is 55%. And I'm assuming the additional makeup is most likely carbohydrate. So first up, let's take a little look at the growth pellet, which is the brown or sort of black coloured pellets. Don't have too much of a smell to them, but they smell alright, as fish food could be. But yeah, don't have too much of a smell to them. And I did think they would smell a little bit more, if I'm honest. But they look quite a nice size, really small pellet size, which is great for a range of fancy goldfish. In no particular order, the ingredients in that pellet is spirulina, brewer's yeast, LT fish meal, which stands for low temperature fish meal, and we'll get onto those ingredients and dive a little bit deeper into those in the rest of the video a little bit later on. Now they also have probiotic bacteria in and garlic as well. Now the colour pellet has some slightly different ingredients, but similar to the growth pellet, it has spirulina in and brewer's yeast. It also has the low temperature fish meal, the garlic, and the probiotic bacteria as well that was in the growth formula. However, this diet slightly different. It also has wheat germ in it, which will bring that protein level down, and it also has Antarctic krill and obviously the astaxanthin to give it that red colour. Now both diets also have trace elements and vitamins in, but that is the same for all diets on the market. They will all contain slightly different ranges of vitamins and minerals within the diets, which are always good for digestion and just general health of your fish. So now we've had a little look at the nutritional analysis of both of these diets, and we've also spoken about the ingredients. Now I didn't give, quick disclaimer, I did not give the full nutritional analysis and the full ingredients list, as I did not have that to hand. However, I can assume that the majority makeup of the rest of the diet is some form of carbohydrate, which will help bind the pellets. Obviously, we don't want too many carbohydrates in our diet, as I have mentioned in the other food reviews, but looking at this diet, it does look like quite a moist pellet, quite an oily pellet, so I would assume that the carbohydrates are not that high and are quite low. Obviously, it is a sinking pellet as well, and generally, if it is a floating pellet, it will have those high levels of carbohydrates to help the diet float. But obviously, this is a sinking pellet, so I'm assuming that the rest of the build-up of that pellet is a smaller amount of carbohydrates. So now let's talk a little bit about the ingredients in depth and the pros and cons to them. First off, as I mentioned, we do have LT fish meal in it, and that stands for low temperature fish meal. Now, low temperature fish meal is the process in which the fish meal is extracted from the carcass of the fish, or the fish in general, and it is a slow drying process rather than a really hot, intense process, and which is generally used in other fish meals. And as the fish is drying, it does remove lots of fat and oils from the fish, which would explain why the fat content isn't crazy high, and it is 10%, which is what I would expect from this diet. And obviously all of that oil does come off the fish in the low temperature production and removal of the fish milk from the carcass, and that explains why the fat isn't crazy high. But LT fish meal is the best quality fish meal you can get, so that's really nice to see that this diet has a really good fish meal in it, and clearly the ingredients have been thought about it as to what they put in this diet. Now, the fat level is good. Obviously, in human diets, we don't want to be eating too much fat, and we always think of fat as a bad thing, but actually fat does play a key role in our fancy goldfish diet and just fish diets in general. Generally, if you have a nice fat level above that 8% up to that 10% level, it can increase and help with the fish's fecundity and fertility rate. Fat is really good at helping the fish produce eggs and sperm, and it really helps them to mature on and get themselves ready for the mating season. So it's really good to see that we've got a nice level of fat in the diet for that. Now also, it's really nice to see that we have garlic in both the diets. Now, there are a lot of myths about garlic in the fish community, and there is lots of false information, but the key active ingredient in garlic is allicin. Now, I don't actually know what the content of garlic within the food is. However, the active ingredient allicin in garlic helps with digestibility in fish, and it also has been proven to lower bacteria count within the fish's intestines or the fish's gut, and also within the muscles. So it definitely has scientific proof that it can help with bacteria levels. It can also help with bacterial levels in the water column. Now, there is a myth that garlic kills parasites, and garlic does not kill parasites, but it does sort of warn them off of the fish. If the fish is eating garlic or has consumed garlic, supposedly it helps alleviate a lot of the parasites and stop them from staying on the fish, as they do not like it. It definitely does not kill parasites, that is a myth. However, it does generally help reduce bacteria and parasite levels on the fish, so it is definitely good to have in the diet. Obviously, having too much garlic, like anything, can have negative results, but I assume there's not going to be a high level of garlic in this diet, but it is definitely really good to see. And there are a lot of diets on the market that do not have that garlic content, so it's really nice to see that that has been included in the diet, because lots of hobbyists, just like me, do add garlic to their gel foods and their homemade foods, so it's nice to see that it's already in this diet. Now, it is also nice to see that we have spirulina in both of these diets. Spirulina is a great natural product, and is actually a type of cyanobacteria that is pelagic within the water column, that is harvested from the water column and added to diets. You may see it as a superfood or a super health food for humans, and spirulina has carotenoids in, or carotene, which actually assists with the fish's coloration, and I believe the spirulina is in both diets. So we've got the spirulina and astaxanthin in the color diet, and then we just have this spirulina in the growth diet, and that is really good not only to provide that carotene within the diet, but it also helps with digestibility and the breakdown of fats as well. So that little 10% level of fat within the diet will help to be broken down by the use of spirulina. Spirulina also has many other health benefits to the fish, but I only just named a few in the video today. Also, in the colour diet, we also have the use of krill meal. Now, I do not know how much krill is in the diet, as I didn't know the full levels, but I could tell that having krill in the diet adds omega-3 fatty acids and adds fatty acids to the diet, which are really good for the fish and provide lots of nutritional benefits. Now, not only does krill provide some nutritional benefits, but it can also increase stress tolerances in fish. And that is a fact that is not that well known, but having an increased stress tolerance in fish means that your fish is not going to be getting stressed out when it sees you standing over the tank or pond or coming near it. Also with other fish interfering with it. Lowering that level of stress means the fish has a better quality of life, and not only that, but it means it can definitely grow at a quicker rate because it isn't using up unnecessary energy on stress. And definitely I love to see that there's krill in this diet, and this diet is looking really good so far. So they are basically the main ingredients that we have within these diets. As I mentioned, I do not have the full breakdown, and it would be good maybe to do another video in the future when we have that full nutritional analysis and full ingredients list. However, I've also seen if you soak this diet, not for very long, for a few minutes, it helps to begin the breakdown of the pellet. So when you give it to your fish, it can reduce any impacts on buoyancy issues. However, as I can see looking at this diet already, it definitely has quite a high moisture content and is more of an oily food, which is generally what I would like to feed to my own fish. If you have a diet that's very dry and also has a low moisture content on the packaging, then generally it has slightly weaker or slightly less nutritional value. And as the food dries out, similar to our own foods, as they dry out, like a dry pasta that you have in a package, it doesn't have that same nutritional qualities that a fresh pasta would. And the same thing is applied to the fish foods. So it's really nice to see that this is a moisture pellet with a high oil content, which means it's going to have less of an impact on the fish's intestines and digestive tract, because it's not going to swell up as much as a dry diet would. Generally, having a dry diet with a lot of carbohydrates in it that is normally floating at the surface, when that fish eats it, that pellet does expand quite a bit, and it can cause blockages, it can cause impaction, and it can cause damage or generally pushing and pressure on the swim bladder, which can lead to buoyancy problems where the fish sits on the bottom or floats at the top or can't quite get its balance. So it's nice to see that this is not the case with this food, and we do have quite a nice quality food as well. Looks like we have also slightly different pellet sizes, although there's not much different in the pellet size. I'm really liking the look and the ingredient quality in the colour food, although the growth food will be slightly better and it will provide a faster rate of growth for younger fish. Generally, if you have older fish, I would say 4 inches plus, maybe 5 inches plus, I would maybe look at the colour food. Although when you do feed colour feeds, it can change the colour aesthetics of your fish. So if you have a black fish, potentially it could slightly turn it a more bronzy colour. Obviously this really has an impact on genetics, and it does depend on the genetics and the bloodline of the fish, but that's also something to consider. If you are just feeding a colour feed, you may notice differences in panda fish or black goldfish or fish that haven't yet molted, so that's definitely something to think about. And also it can sometimes have an impact on the shiroji or the white element of the skin. Also, as both diets have quite a high protein content, I would definitely feed this more sporadically. I wouldn't do lots of food at once. You don't want these fish eating a huge amount of protein at once, not only because a lot of the protein will go wasted. Similar to humans eating a huge meal at once, you're going to waste a lot of the essential and macro and micro nutrients within the diet, but also it's going to have an impact on water quality having a high protein content level. Although generally found having high protein content and a lower carbohydrate content does have a positive impact on water quality, and that is a scientific proof that having a higher protein level and a lower carbohydrate level will have a positive impact on water quality, or it will cause less tannins or less colour changes to your water, because the fish simply cannot consume and break down a lot of the carbohydrates in the diet. So that is definitely a good thing. Having a high protein content diet means we don't want to feed the fish too much of this at once. So I definitely would recommend feeding maybe 3 to 4 times a day maximum, especially on the high protein diet. And you can feed probably a little bit more of the slightly lower protein diet, but that is my personal opinion. That is not any facts or anything that comes with the food. So I would say the diets are very good, and I really can't wait to try them. Adam has provided me with lots of pictures of before and after of his fish. on this specific diet, and it's really good to see how they've come along. Now obviously feeding a high protein diet long term may not be the way you want to keep your fancies, especially if you have parent fish, oyagoi, or larger fish that don't require or that would waste a lot of that protein source. But definitely I would be using this diet. If it was me personally, and I was looking at longevity of my fish rather than super fast growth, I would probably use a combination of these diets whilst my fish were young, alongside maybe a frozen food like a bloodworm or some brine shrimp or daphnia, and then also a nice gel food as well to assist in digesting this pellet. Although, as I mentioned, it is a high moisture, high fat content pellet with slightly lower carbohydrate level, so it should pass through the fish nice and gently anyway. Having that rapashi or similar gel food, or a homemade gel food with nice vegetable qualities to it, will definitely help and assist with the fish's digestion. So that is the video on Lucky's Ranchu's goldfish food. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Let me know down below in the comment section if you've used this fish food before, and if you have any opinions on it as well. I'd love to hear those opinions. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a feed trial on that food as well, so we will be testing it out on our goldfish when we get them for our indoor tank. I'm sure I'll give it to the Japanese top view Ranchu, which are outside as well. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you want to have your tank featured on the channel in our Rate My Tank series or our Tank Tour series, then you can pop me an email. The email is down below in the description, and I can get that sorted for you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this in-depth analysis of this fish food. As always, thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.